All right, so this is an awesome episode that we have with Sophie Howard. She is an online business investor with Freedom Navigator. She's done 29 online deals, which is just mind-blowing. That's a lot of businesses, even if they're small, they're large. She's done a little bit of everything in between. We dive into some cool things about her story where she dives further into how she got started with Amazon FBA, sold that business, got into a book publishing business and continued to scale from there, and eventually got it into a newsletter publishing business. What I like about this conversation is Sophie dives into several different business models that are very applicable to online businesses. We talk a lot about her employees and her general managers and what she likes to avoid with a business, like no social media. It's not reliant on social media, no paid ads, because those things that take up a lot of time. She's really designed her businesses to fall around her lifestyle that she loves there with several young kids in New Zealand. She has, like I had mentioned, she has sold 6- and 7-figure businesses. She started with that Amazon business a long time ago, but right now she's focused on entrepreneurs and helping them get to the next level in terms of buying an online business, right? Rather than start from scratch. So a few things you can learn more at aspiringentrepreneurs.com of what she's working on. And we'll go ahead and dive into the episode from there. Awesome. So we are live. Sophie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ryan. Great to be here.
Well, I know we have a lot to connect with. You'd mentioned you've been a follower of the show for a long time. Love to dive into a lot of different things that you're seeing in the online business world. Tell us a bit about your background, Sophie, and how you got to this point.
Well, 10 years or so now living exclusively off online income of various types. So pretty happy to hit that milestone. There's a lot start that, you have your wobbly moments as you build new businesses, and luckily 10 years down the track through various decisions and various opportunities running and juggling a load of stuff, managed to pull it off, and now feeling really secure with the skills I've built and having had some big successes with online businesses. So got started with an Amazon FBA business back as everyone did in 2013, and had a great first year, a super duper first product, which really gave me maybe some beginner's luck, but it certainly was a cash injection that let me order a lot of other products and figure out Amazon pretty quick. And I sold that for over $1 million. And then I did some Amazon coaching because I found that creative bit of finding the product to sell really easy. Like that was just a doddle. All the bits about shipping was so boring. And other people wanted help with choosing products. So I did that for a bit. And then sort of morphed from there into ebooks, which I think's an even better part of Amazon to play on because there's no inventory, which was the boring bit. And then also in the last few years, tried a new game entirely, which I think I'm preaching to the converted here, but buying businesses rather than growing them. So I've got various little software projects I'm playing with and a few partnerships, but really the core thing I'm doing at the moment is looking at really cool, profitable online businesses to buy. And I've done, I think, 28 or 29 deals now. It sounds like a lot. Some of them are very little content sites, but a bunch of them have been 6 figures and tracking really well. So really happy with how that portfolio is performing, and now helping anyone else looking to buy a business a bit like you. There's a lot of people suddenly cottoning on, this bit's easier. This is not as hard as the slog it out at weekends and, poor odds of success and a lot of dead ends and a lot of unpaid time and a lot of non-stop decision making to figure it all out. So that has been in a nutshell my last 10 years. And I think the next 10 years will be mainly buying businesses.
Yeah, buying more businesses. Well, it's so true. You talked about like many unpaid hours and sleepless nights. It's like when you start something from scratch, you don't know which hours you're actually going to get paid on, and it might be many, many, many months, many years down the road. You've done 29 deals. That's a lot of deals, even if it's small content sites, large content sites. That's just a lot of deals to begin with. How did you get started with online businesses? Because one of our listener base is about 50% are looking for online businesses and 50% looking for Main Street. And a lot of the Main Street people, or even people looking for online businesses, don't know where to begin. How did you start that journey? Did you have a background with online businesses, or did you just sort of kind of learn that as you started adapting?
Well, the first business I bought wasn't actually a strategy of let's build a portfolio of online businesses. It was actually to learn something I needed to know faster than figuring it out myself. So I had these non-fiction books selling really well on Amazon, and they were cranking. They behave like a product. You do a search, as a customer and buy a product that matches that search. It's just in the format of a book. So it's a very linear, easy to manage game. But the fiction boys and girls, I was watching their zeros after their sales figures. I was like, whoa, these guys are doing something different. And I'm not an author. It's like, I know about publishing, I know about Amazon. I can project manage a virtual team, but I don't know how to produce fiction books. So I bought a fiction business, and it came with a team of writers. It came with a database, tens of thousands of readers of this author profile. It came with all the books already selling on Amazon with a cash flow attached. And I rolled that into my Amazon world and enjoyed having a team and a standard operating procedure of how to churn out best-selling fiction books. It's like a sausage machine. It's no creative artistry. And so it was an instant learning, instant team just transposed into my existing online world. So that was cool. And it was through Empire Flippers. I paid probably 3 times the net profit of the last year to buy it. But I was really happy. It let me launch a whole bunch of new stuff. It was just a really cool experience. I was like, well, that wasn't hard. And it was right at the beginning of COVID. And I think the vendors were pretty motivated and a bit spooked with what was going to happen next. So they took a really low ball cash offer, which was good. And then I was like, well, that was good. So I kept an eye out. I just set up some searches and had my inbox smashed with all these business listings. I was sorting through them all and not entirely sure what I was looking for, but found another, excuse me, really cool newsletter business for publishing. So it's like a deal of the day for authors to get their books in front of lots of readers, which gives them a big boost as they launch. So that was cool. I bought that and it still runs. That makes me 90K a year and I do nothing. Like I literally get one Skype message a week that tells me how much money we've made. Just sit on it.
That's
So
amazing.
that's a
Did
really
that come
cool.
with a team? Did it come with a team and like
One operator.
one operator? Okay.
Yeah. So that's one. I know you're a big fan of buying and building. So this one we bought and we didn't massively grow it, but we cut out huge amounts of inefficiencies and overheads. So it was a email between the authors posting their books in the newsletter and our operator girl taking the bookings, scheduling them, gathering up blurbs and links and images for the newsletter and sending it out. We turned it into a WordPress self-service site. So the authors wanting to promote their book, look at the schedule, choose their date, they add in their links themselves, they pay us $160 each every day that they want their book featured, and it goes through PayPal and lands in my bank here in New Zealand. So I do nothing. And the girl who was doing sort of half-time works down to a few hours a week of a bit of quality control on the books being promoted and checking open rates on emails and reaching out to our favourite authors and things. So that's been great. So she works very part-time hours and it's so profitable and such a cool model. I love a newsletter business
That's
or any of those
amazing.
sort of recurring sites.
So let's dive into that just a little bit, right? So in terms of the business models, there's a lot of business models out there. You didn't have a newsletter background, correct? You saw
No.
this and then you're like, hey, I'm going to learn the newsletter business. Were there things that you should have asked during due diligence that you didn't know you should have asked, or were there hiccups along the way? It sounds like you bought a great business and just didn't break it. So that's like step
Yeah.
one, buy a good business. But you're getting into an industry you didn't know before. So were you worried about potential, trip ups and things throughout the process?
No, I was actually more excited about, say, that list of readers who like one type of fiction. How could I double that list? Because that then doubles the value to the authors. The more books and downloads and reviews they get out the door on that day of a launch, the better. So I could see ways to scale just the size of that list. And I think the previous owners had done a bit of dabbling with Facebook ads. So we did lots of giveaways to build that list really quickly and cheaply. And then that was only for one type of fiction. So we thought, well, if people like romance, there's probably a whole bunch of other people who like mysteries and thrillers, and we can replicate that whole model, exact same system, exact same technology, all the standard operating procedures the same, but do the same offer for a different genre. And so then we looked at what we could automate, and I was just fizzing with the creativity of growth rather than missing anything in the transaction. The guys that sold that business were really, really nice people. They really helped out with all the transition. They shared all the stuff that they tried that hadn't worked with Facebook ads and which things had worked. And the girl who operates the newsletter, that all went really smoothly. I had another business I bought and was promised an employee who wasn't, well, contractor, who wasn't critical, in terms of their skill set. But they said she was going to come over and she ditched us on day one. And that was pain.
Oh, It's
So
brutal.
that happens, but you can't really lock anything in the online
Yeah.
world. I mean, even my own team, I'm super dependent on them and we have a great working relationship. So there's some things you can't control. The one thing to be really careful on that I got nearly caught out on but managed to renegotiate the price was buying a subscription business that sat on Gumroad, and then the payments went to the previous owner's personal PayPal. So I'm in New Zealand. You couldn't move the Gumroad account, and we
Yeah.
couldn't change the PayPal payments to come through to my business from his personal. We couldn't switch that. So it's a subscription business. So I said, look, this is going to be really hard. We're going to not migrate everyone that you've got that I'm paying full price for. So let's do partial payment now, vendor finance for the rest. We'll do a wash up in 12 months of how many actually migrated over, and we'll pay you for those people and don't want to pay for people we never receive. So whenever there is a technical hitch or something like that, there's usually a way to get a price that reflects the cost of the hitch or the mess that somebody's got to clear up, or the lost revenue or the extra cost or whatever it takes. So
Well,
that
that's
was.
that's awesome. So with a few of those businesses that you've got there, you'd mentioned one that you applied what had worked in one genre to other genres. Did the other owners just never decide to do that, or were they unsuccessful in taking their great systems, their SOPs, and applying it to another industry?
They'd never tried it.
That's
So I've
crazy.
actually started a few other newsletter businesses. I've gone bonkers for newsletters. Um, sorry, got a bit of a cough. Um, so the newsletter I'm working on at the moment is for AI. So we're going to review different technologies coming out. We're doing a profile of like the top 100 most influential people, and we'll share that round. And we'll build up the readership by doing some really quality pieces, both on what's happening in the tech side, what's happening on the commercial side. Get the people who are following it to see our weekly roundup as something unmissable, and then get those 100 people we profile as the thought leaders, current heads of captains of industry of AI. Share that report with them. It makes them look good. They'll share it. And then before we know it, we've got this bigger readership that then we can have a sponsor attached or review products that then have affiliate links in. So starting out as a sort of a neutral or independent voice doing a roundup is really valuable. So there's some fantastic newsletters I pay for, like Trends, and then there's other free ones like Morning Brew, and some great stuff out there in newsletter format that gets a really high open rate. There's not much tech, really easy to deliver, really cheap to compile each week. There's really passionate experts on all these subjects. So you could get a sponsored post, you could have advertising, so many opportunities off the back end of a quality newsletter. So I think that's something original and quality and easy to deliver, like as in actually delivered by email
Yeah.
to your readers.
So that's what I was going to dive further into. So, if you think about a newsletter, you have affiliate links, you have partnerships, you have basically sponsored posts to an extent. You even have people who pay to receive that newsletter, like with Trends or many other newsletters. What are some of the business models? I guess what are all the business models you see with newsletters, or when you look at a newsletter and say, "Oh, they're not doing X, Y, and Z. I know how to do that." What immediately crosses your mind when you see a newsletter?
Oh, I just want to buy them. I love the email list because given the cost of, say, using paid traffic to build a database now, it's pretty grim. Not, if somebody started a newsletter organically a bunch of years back and it's had quality content throughout those years and engaged readership, and we don't have to pay for the database. When you buy the business, you're not paying for all the work and time and effort that's gone into building that database. So any quality newsletter, I want to buy them. There's actually a platform that specializes just in newsletters for sale, which I track very closely, and I've snapped up a few. And I just think it's a really neat model, possibly one of my favorites, because if somebody's looking to stay up to date with something, they're your ideal client, really. They're the ones that are sort of investing time and learning and staying current. They're the sorts of people that listen to your podcast, the people that want to learn, that invest some time in improving their knowledge and connecting with what's going on. These are the people you want to deal with in business. So a newsletter is great because if they want a snippet about AI summary each week, maybe they actually should be looking at a more in-depth course on how to implement AI in their business, or how to project manage development of an AI tool or something. There might be other more sort of in-depth specific things that you could point them towards. So actually AI I'm quite geeky about, but I did a course through MIT last year on it. So it was a few months, and every week we had to hand in a pretty chunky assignment, and I got quite into it. And I could see that everybody else on the course came in from a kind of a pretty corporate background. I was the only entrepreneurial sort in there.
Free
But all
thinker.
these big companies were spending megabucks trying to figure out how to wrangle AI. And you could see that there was a big opportunity there, connecting the real tech side to the actual business application. So I just did a newsletter on AI applications for business owners. So not for corporates, but for smaller entrepreneurs. So that's been a really fun project. It doesn't make much money yet, but that's the sort of thing that somebody could buy one day. I've got a friend who's actually a business broker, Jock Purtle, and he's very smart. But he is while he was being a business broker, he started just a really simple review site of virtual private networks. So reviewing all the VPNs for
Oh yeah.
people who are in different countries, and there's so many of them. So he wrote up which ones are good, and as a paid an analyst to write something once a week. But he sold that for $2 million cash up front because of the database.
Wow, good for him. So
Yeah,
a
so
lot
it's a
of what
cool
you're
model.
talking about is like from a buying perspective, you're buying the foundation that has been built up. And I love the point that you talked about there, Sophie, is you're not necessarily paying for all the time and energy and effort that went into that database because you're typically buying based on the financials, right? So there
Yeah,
may have been more time and energy put into it than it actually would take to reconstruct that database now might actually cost more than buying the business. And in this
oh yeah,
case, you're buying the business and applying what you've learned from all these different business models. And we talked about a couple different business models just with the newsletter business. Another thing that's a little bit unique, I think, here, Sophie, is you've taken multiple multiple routes to get to different online businesses. What I mean by that is you started with Amazon FBA, and then you're like, hey, let's go do this ebooks, Kindle version of stuff, and let's go this path, and let's go this path. So you're constantly readapting and reinventing what you're doing. Are you, connecting the dots as you reverse, look backwards, or are you looking forward and saying, hey, that model looks interesting. I don't have to deal with hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory. Let's do a newsletter business, and then you just jump all in. How are you thinking about that and staying up to date and being okay with switching business models? Because that's actually not that common. Most people they get good at one thing and they just keep doing it.
yeah. Well, I'm quite creative, and so I love the learning of figuring out a new game. So I never find that boring or too hard as long as I haven't put too much money, and I'm never shy to do that work to figure out a new opportunity. So I work pretty hard, but I'm quite conservative financially. So I don't mind if I start something and it fails, as long as I haven't spent too much money on it and I'm only back at zero. So I never borrow money to do anything. Everything's sort of self-funded and bootstrap my way through things and keep my overheads really low. And then I start small with stuff. So if you look at the pattern, the things in common were that Amazon gave you access to a huge customer database, so you didn't have to spend money on marketing like that. The cash flows for products was tough because say the product orders up front and your money's got committed until it sells for profit, hopefully. But say drop shipping, while the inventory doesn't incur a charge till the customer's paid you, you've got to spend a fortune on marketing. There's nothing to show for that sometimes if you've got it wrong, or trusting campaigns, or Facebook jacks up the price of your bids on, or your Google ads, the price goes up. That never comes down. So I didn't really want to ever be dependent on platforms where I could be wiped out at the click of Facebook or Google's or Amazon's on a whim of theirs. So I've sort of moved away from being totally dependent on Amazon. I've never bought a business that runs on paid traffic.
Oh, interesting.
And
Very cool.
another common thing is I don't do any social media because you've got to stay too current on too many things. If I had to do video ads for YouTube and then crunch the data on how the Facebook ads are performing and put it all over on Instagram, I just don't do it. I just don't use it. I don't use social media myself. And so I've tried to stick to a few big industries where I understand the customer and what the other business to business opportunities look like. So, for example, with the publishing little bundle I've got going on, I've got lists that have big groups of readers and I know what kind of books they're going to read. I've got services for authors. So I'm separately building an AI tool for advertising for Amazon authors. So automate that ad bidding. So I understand what authors need in terms of Amazon's promotions. And then I know when people launch a book, they want readers and reviews and downloads to get the books and buzz and people following that new author that they hadn't met before. And so there's another one that's a subscription service with design files for authors to use each month. So I've got a few sort of related businesses in one industry. And because I knew about ebooks, it was really obvious to me what would be useful to the readers or the authors, or to save money on your Amazon ads or something. So that bit's been kind of following my nose rather than very deliberately planned out in advance. But that was sort of quite intuitive once I got started. But then I've bought totally unrelated things, and they've been, the last one I bought was a guitar playing site. So it's a WordPress site with guitar reviews, which lead to affiliate sales. It's got advertising. And the other thing with that is we've created an ebook because I bought the business that didn't have any ebook format stuff. It didn't have an audio book. So I've created the audio book from the same ghostwriter who wrote the ebook. And then the same guy, who's actually a guitar teacher, obviously, he's doing that audio book actually becomes a series of online lessons. So not only did he do the audio for Audible, he's done the video format to make it into a mini course, which can be for sale on the website. And then from there, if anybody wants one-on-one guitar lessons, we've got some affiliate links where we get some commission if those people sign up for one-on-one lessons, which can all be done on Zoom now. So it's all 100% online. So I just see an opportunity to add new products or services to an existing smaller model, but it gives you such a head start if there's a bunch of readers, a nicely aged, indexed SEO profile on Google. It gives you a real head start if you've been on that Google platform a bit longer than completely starting from scratch. So I buy with the intention to grow, and I can't help myself because I spot stuff that should be done, and then I just kind of figure out what I can afford, not so much just in the cash, but how much bandwidth have I got for too many projects at once. I get in a bit of a tangle when I get too ambitious. So keeping it simple. Yeah, well, one elephant's good.
yeah, exactly. So a couple of things that I think are really fascinating with your story here, Sophie, is you observe everything. You're observing, hey, this business model worked over here, but they're not doing this niche over here, right? Or, hey, this works for romance, why not these other 5 options that you can apply these in? Or you're observing that AI is taking off and all these companies are spending all this money to try to figure out AI. Well, let's simplify that. Oh, and if big businesses are trying to figure this out, small businesses, there's 1,000 times more small businesses than there are big businesses. So you're constantly observing these things, and then you're matching these together. At least what I'm getting from the 25 minutes we've been talking, Sophie, it's really fascinating how you've been able to build this across all these different industries, but you're constantly piecing these together, and you're just observing and saying, hey, you didn't do this over here, or this didn't work over here. How do I put all these together? And I think that's something that as an entrepreneur, it's a muscle that you have to exercise. And especially if you've been at a W-2, or you've had a job for your whole career, or you've just been stuck in one niche, sometimes you don't have that ability to exercise that muscle.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's quite liberating. I'd hate to be confined. So when I'm helping other people buy a business, we spend a lot of time focusing in on that profile of the sort of business, your criteria for your acquisition, and trying to get that pretty tight. Otherwise, you're just casting around, going in circles, looking at every business for sale, a e-commerce, drop shipping, a newsletter, a SaaS business. You can't process that many. But once you've had someone sort of stop and think about what business model suits you, it doesn't really matter what industry so much. But I do think it's important you have some affinity or some interest in the topic. So while my guitar one's a cool little business and I'm having lots of fun bolting on new offers into an existing business that's really profitable without them, I don't really know anything about guitars. I've never played a guitar in my life. I've got no connection to the students, or if I read that the copywriters have uploaded a blog post on reviewing some electronic drum kit. Is it good? No? Probably. They've researched it, but I feel better about the ones that I've got some connection with. So that's sort of one of my new criteria I've added for myself, that you've got to find some sort of X factor, something a bit cool about the business, or something that you're really interested in. There's also sometimes a tax benefit if you have a personal interest in something and you can build a business around something in your lifestyle that sort of crosses over a bit, and just get some efficiencies there.
I was just gonna say, I have a friend who has a fly fishing site, and it's just because he wants to fly fish a lot. Well, fast forward 7 years later, it makes pretty good money, and now he flies all over the world fly fishing. So But with just a few minutes left here, Sophie, you have a lot of different businesses, and you've mentioned multiple times that you have managers in place. How do you find a manager for these businesses? Did they come with? I know some of them came with a manager or good employees, but how do you go out and find them?
Well, I'm actually one person, 2 days a week runs the whole thing. And she, in the rest of her time, has a new baby. And in some of the rest of the time, she's helping me with one of my startup ideas. So she'll actually run that one day. But while she's on sort of this part-time running my portfolio, we have one weekly meeting. I found her on Upwork, I think.
Okay.
So she's actually based in New Zealand as well, which is quite unusual. So I've got one part-time tech manager. So she's very techie. We're completely complementary skill sets. We get on really, really well. We're on the same time zone, totally high trust a couple of years down the track. So she makes sure the sites don't break, the emails go to the right people, that the systems are set up right. If we buy a business with a MailChimp list and we're on active campaign, we do that hump of work once to get everything onto our active campaign. If we buy a website that's not on WordPress, we move it onto WordPress. So she checks all the plugins and things work. She manages an agency's content coming through for all the content sites. So we use niche website builders for all our content writing. And then we don't have any paid ads, which is a really time consuming thing, not just to run them, but to record content for them and sign off on offers. And, that's really hard. So we don't do any social media. So that's easy. And so all we do is she manages the tech side of things. I hatch various plots and schemes to grow things and sort of feed them through, and we pick and choose what we can do and often resource that through Upwork. And then we try not to take on more things than we can keep a close eye on ourselves, but that's always a challenge. And then we've got one other lady also in New Zealand who does the finance. And I've got some properties, so she looks after the properties and all the money flows and checking rents and organising maintenance. So she does that for me, and she also codes all the money flowing around. So timesheets from freelancers, invoices from copywriters or content writers. So she just codes everything to each business unit. And once a week, I get a nice snappy little ping in my Skype. $2,000, this newsletter business, $3,000, this subscription business. And they just flow through. Then it's all tracked on Xero, so I get nice granular reporting in there on the profit and loss of each one. So I've got one software project, which is a bit of a pet project that's running backwards fast. It's 15K a month just for the development team. And that's been going a while, but that could be a really, really big one if we land it right, as it's in my head. That could be a really big exit in a few years. So that's pretty fun. So I still build a few to sell, build a few to hold, but really buying them is the fastest and easiest way to have those income streams. Just land in your bank account reliably, low stress, and still with the opportunity of some upside if you're feeling entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
So it's a really small team.
That's pretty awesome. Well, you've dropped so much value here. Before we talk about where people can find you and learn more here, Sophie, final question for you is what is one of the weirdest and most creative ways you've seen people make money?
Well, I was trying over this summer to get my children to write some ebooks, since I teach that as well. And they really should write some ebooks and sell them. They could totally do it, especially since I could tell them exactly how to do it. But, your children don't always listen to you. And so that was an epic fail. But my son, who's 11, took some of my Monstera cuttings of my houseplants, not the ones in this room, but in another room I've got some really cool pot plants in the house. And he started selling cuttings on Facebook Marketplace. He's made a small fortune.
Wow.
So he does great photography off my phone, pops them up there, $30 for a 3-leaf shoot, and off they go.
That is awesome.
So that's quite enterprising. Even if
Good
he doesn't
for
do what
him.
he's told.
Yeah, that's like mother like son, really, when it comes down to it. So, well, Sophie, where can people find you and learn more about your journey and follow you and everything?
Well, thanks, Ren. I've got a website called Aspiring Entrepreneurs, which is a bit of a handful of things to type. So we'll drop something in the show notes between us and get that link there for you. So I can share my book for free, which is all about the deals I've done, sort of case studies of some of the businesses I've bought and some tips on how to do this. And then also there's a free training and also a full course where there's live weekly calls with me and, hand holding through deals, one-on-one deal reviews and things. So I'm not really a finance person. So what I look for in the deals is sort of what's exciting and quality about the products or services, what's the potential upside, does it look like a good buy, what's good, what are the red flags. So I can do feedback on individual deals as well as sort of take you through some core training on how to find these deals and set your criteria. So really love helping people do this. There's so many deals out there, far, far more businesses for sale than serious buyers. So if you want to become a serious buyer, you need to get in the game and upskill a bit. And if you need some help, I'd love to help you. And there's plenty of other really good experts in this space as well, including Ryan, and people that are really passionate about helping people find good deals to buy.
Awesome. Well, Sophie, thanks so much for a few minutes of your time today. We'll link to all that there in the show notes.